Okay, so we're gonna skip ahead a little. It's the late 80s, early 90s. And I had just come out at college. And the way I decided to come out was that I developed this crush on this really butch dyke at school. And I kind of made my way over and was like, okay, like, we have to do this. Yeah, for sure. And so I became her girlfriend, and what I didn't know at the time was, like, she was the big dyke on campus that everyone knew. She ran, like, the queer group when it was before queer. And so when I, like, showed up to the first, like, party, everyone's like, who is that straight girl with Liz? Like, that's the big dyke on campus, and we don't even know who that is. What's going on? And so one of the first things that Liz said to me was, I am so excited because I am bringing, like, my icon to come speak at our university. And it's happening in, like, a mere 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, okay, who is it? And she said, Susie Bright. And I was like, who's Susie Bright? She was like, what? So she said, okay, you're gonna have to read her book, and I'm gonna have to witness that you have actually read every single page of it, because you can't be my girlfriend if you don't know who Susie Bright is. And these are all my back issues of On Our Backs. I need you to study these, pronto. So I'll never forget the very first piece that I read was a fisting piece, and we read it to each other in bed from Susie's Lesbian Sex World. And Susie did, in fact, come to my university and speak. And afterwards, she ended up in the grotto of this co-ed fraternity, sort of holding court. And I was kind of, on the outskirts. Like, I'm at that point like a sophomore, and I'm just like, there's all these seniors, and they're all talking to Susie. And she was like, well, I just got my labia pierced. Do you just want to fucking see it? And, in my mind, I'm thinking, yes. So I think you showed us your labia piercing. And the next thing that happened was that Liz told me, okay, so Susie Bright's been here now, but we're gonna do another event next week. And I said, what is it? And she said, we're gonna watch porn in public on university property. We're just gonna put it up on the big screen and then have a discussion about it. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I know what porn is. Like, I grew up like this, waspy family, and I've seen pornography. I know what pornography is. And so I got there to this event, and the film they were screening was How to Female Ejaculate, from Fatale video, starring Deborah Sundahl. Is Carol still here? Carol Queen was in it. So basically, all these women are sitting in a room, and they're really obviously queer. I mean, I don't know that they said that, but everyone was clearly queer. And they start jerking off, talking about, how they have female ejaculated, how they can squirt, how they masturbate, showing each other. And then, instead of someone sort of like getting up to go get like a refill of guacamole, someone will just squirt. Like, just during the conversation, it'll just, oh, okay, let's pan the camera over. And it's like one camera, and it's so, it's like, okay, you're squirting, let's go, let's all watch. Okay, and anyway, and I was like, this is porn? This is really cool. Wow, this is porn. I'm really excited. Okay, so I actually, after I graduated college, I wrote my very first erotic story, and I got up the nerve and sent it to On Our Backs. And I got a letter from then editor Heather Finley, who said, I'm sorry, this just isn't that good. And I was like, okay, I'll try harder next time. And she actually talks about that fondly, because I went on to become the editor of On Our Backs, and we won some big award at some like gay and lesbian journalism conference or something, and she was like, so I was the first person to write a rejection letter to Tristan Taormino. I was clearly missing the boat. But I did become editor of On Our Backs, and one of the things that struck me when I was in charge of doing these photo shoots is that when these real couples would sort of call us and just be like, hey, I want to be in On Our Backs. Come over to my house. I'm gonna fuck my girlfriend. You're gonna take pictures. Let's go, right? That's kind of how it all worked. It wasn't like we had these casting sessions or the casting couch. We had people like lining up and like dropping their drawers and being like, oh, I don't know. And Heather at the time, who was the publisher, said, you know, I really want to try to change the direction and really get some, I just feel like it's just all these couples having sex and it's getting kind of boring. So let's try to like mix it up. So I came up with this photo shoot, and I got two people who were going to do it, and it was like a doctor-nurse thing, right? So we had this sort of doctor-nurse role play, and we did it in someone's medical room of their dungeon, and we had all this cool medical equipment, and it was all really fun, and scrubs came off, and you know, all that stuff. And we shot the cover, hot butch, hot femme, like, okay, this is going to be great. And it was the worst selling issue during my tenure of On Our Backs. And so I remember being at our like annual retreat where she just made us do these reports that were like, I felt like, you know, I worked for IBM, really. Like that was what was at stake here. You know what I mean? Billions of dollars. PowerPoint and all that stuff. And she was like, so why is this the worst selling issue? And I thought to myself, well, I think I know why. Because they didn't come up with it. We kind of asked them to do it. And we had this idea of what might be fun and what might look good, and so we asked them to do it. And they did a fine job of doing it, but maybe everyone could see that this wasn't their sexuality, it wasn't their fantasy. They weren't two dykes who called us up and said, come just watch me and my girlfriend fuck. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. The way that I first got into porn was that I wrote a book called The Ultimate Guide to Anal Sex for Women, and I decided that I wanted to make a video based on the book. And I wanted to make a video that was not only a sort of how-to video and instructional, like yes, I want to teach people how to have safe and pleasurable anal sex, but I also want it to be so hot that people run out and do it immediately, right? So I wrote a proposal for my film and sent it to all the major porn companies. No one writes a proposal for a porn film. So it was like I made sort of the crucial error pretty early on. And I called people, I did a follow-up call, and everyone just said, I'm sorry, no, we're not really interested. So everyone turned me down, and then, including John Stagliano, who's the head of Evil Angel. And then a couple months later, I remember I was freelancing at the time. I was like, I had my computer on my lap, I was sitting in my apartment, and the phone rang, and the voice at the other end said, can I speak to Tristan Taormino? And I said, this is she, and he said, hi, this is John Stagliano. And I was like, oh my God. Buttman is totally on the phone. And my dog just looked at me like, what? Who is that? So he says to me, I don't know, I've been reading your proposal, which I think is more than anyone else did, and I might be interested in doing this. I mean, are you going to be in Vegas? And I said, yes, I am. Yep. And he said, great. So come see me in Vegas, we'll set something up, we'll talk about it. I was like, I'll do that. See you in Vegas. And then I hung up the phone and I was like, what is Vegas? I just told him I'm going somewhere, I don't even know where I'm going. So I did a little research and found out every year the adult industry has this big trade show called AVN. They have the AVN Awards, and it happens in Las Vegas. So I fly to Las Vegas, I show up at his booth, and I'm like, hi, I'm Tristan Taormino. And he sits me down and he's basically like, you seem very bright. But you've never made porn before, and I just don't know. I mean, I but you seem very passionate and excited, and I get that. And so maybe if I found you kind of like a co-director, someone who'd kind of watch over you, and maybe if I did the movie, like I shot the movie myself, maybe we can make okay, I think we can make this work. Okay, so let's make this movie. And I was like, great. I had never taken a film class. I'd never picked up a video camera. I'd never read a book about making movies, nothing. So it's months later, I'm in John Stagliano's house in Malibu, and I'm on the set of my movie, and the performers show up, and they turn to me and say, okay, so what are we doing? And I was like, having sex? I mean, I was just, the learning curve on that project was quite steep. I'll leave it at that. So I did that one movie, and then I did The Ultimate Guide to Anal Sex for Women, and then I did The Ultimate Guide to Anal Sex for Women 2, because the ultimate means nothing in porn. You can just, I could be doing number 23 right now as we speak. It just doesn't matter. And then I kind of went on about my other sex education work, and I wrote some more books, and I got my job at the Village Voice, and I was just doing other stuff. I mean, I never kind of intended to be like a full-time pornographer. And in 2005, I decided to return to porn and make it more central to my work. And I did that for a couple reasons. One was that the reason that I so much liked John Stagliano is because he's considered the father of gonzo porn. And gonzo is the sort of documentary style, real world, cinema verite genre of porn, okay? And people, say he invented it. I don't know if he did, but, and his whole Buttman character, I mean, that was all the early days of gonzo, where no one's playing a part, there's no script, there weren't really high production values. It was all about like spontaneous sex and really raw, and they would talk to the camera. Often the person behind the camera was a character in the thing, and it was all really more about the sex than these sort of storylines. And when I made my first movie, it was very much gonzo style, and I, as a viewer, really loved gonzo porn. But by the time sort of the mid-2000s came around, gonzo porn had gotten really weird. Basically, if you went to the gonzo section at your local video store, chances were, like 9 times out of 10, you were going to pick up a movie and it was going to be really rough and hardcore and hard-edged. And there was going to be a lot of spitting and name-calling, and I would say not just male dominance and female submission, but actually like male hostility and female submission that didn't always entirely seem consensual. It was like, what's going on here? And then also gonzo became known as like the place where we can try to like stick as many things in someone's orifices at the same time, that we, let's just try to like make it was getting to be like a Jackass show where it wasn't even sexy anymore, because I was like, I'm not clear about this like pushing your head in the toilet, because like I get it, right? If you want your head pushed in the toilet, great, but she's not going to even have an orgasm from that. Like, if you're going to go to the trouble of pushing my head in the toilet, you better give me a fucking orgasm for it, okay? Okay. So gonzo had gone in this like weird place that I was like, we need to get back to the roots of gonzo, which is all this spontaneity, real people, all that stuff. And then the other piece of it was that, Candida Royale pioneered this porn for women genre in the 80s. And essentially it's 2005, and when you ask the mainstream porn industry sort of what is porn for women, they will describe a Candida Royale movie from 1985. And they're like, that's porn for women. Really nice lighting, tasteful sets and decor, good scripts, good production values, no facial cum shots. No external cum shots of any kind. That's gross, women don't want that. No anal sex, women don't want anal sex. No, it's like a softer, gentler pornography. And I was like, okay, lots of people like that. I mean, she's wildly successful. But what about all the people out there for whom that's not their cup of tea. Like, what are they watching? Because I don't want to, that's not my kind of porn. I don't feel like, you know, scripts add to the situation. I feel like they complicate it. And so I wanted to make really a different kind of porn, the kind of porn that I would want to see. So I came up with this idea, and I didn't write a proposal this time. I was totally like, I'm not writing a proposal. And I did this first movie called House of Ass for Adam and Eve. And House of Ass was essentially the sort of prototype for what became my chemistry series, which is a reality porn series where I take a group of porn stars to a house for 36 hours, and nothing is scripted and nothing is planned. They get to decide who they have sex with, where, when, and then they come into the confessional and tell us why. And along with a lot of other great things about why they're in porn, about their sex lives, about what they like, about what they don't like. And that sort of was my first, but I don't want to go over, so I'm done. I'm done.
I was trying to be discreet. I didn't want to cut you off in mid-sentence.
No, I didn't poke you though.
Oh. You should have.